What do you love about Chicago?
The people embody the culture of Chicago. We know how to organize and include justice in things that we're interested in.
You're listening to Notes from Chicago with Ashley Phillips. Hey everyone, so we've spent a lot of time over the past few months talking to Chicagoans, notable Chicagoans or ordinary Chicagoans doing pretty extraordinary things, which has been really fun. But we also want to hear from you. We want to hear your Chicago stories. So please visit us on Instagram. You can find us at Notes from Chicago and click on the link in the bio and share your stories with us. We can't wait to hear more. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Notes from Chicago. Today, we are so excited and honored to have Tonika Lewis Johnson. She is a Chicago native. She is a photographer and social justice artist. She is also a newly minted MacArthur Fellow Genius Grant awardee. So Tonika, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Let's start to get into your work and specifically maybe we can start with the Folded Map Project. Why don't you talk a little bit about, why don't you tell us about that?
I jokingly refer to it as a multimedia art project that is my personal autobiography in the form of art. It is a project that visualizes Chicago's segregation in a way that I feel at the time in 2018 when it debuted was new. It uses Chicago's grid map to essentially fold the Chicago map to compare neighborhoods that would touch each other if you folded the map, and help people understand how segregation looks through comparing addresses that are on the same street but miles apart in racially and economically different neighborhoods, but by also bringing people who live in those addresses together to have a conversation, and they're called map twins.
When you had that first meeting of map twins, or your set of, like the first set of map twins that you got together to talk, were you nervous?
Yes, because when I started the project, it was originally going to be just a photography project where I photographed architecture. I photographed homes and buildings on the same street, 15 miles apart. When one of the homeowners came out of the home that I was photographing, I was like, oh gosh, I've been busted. Oh my goodness. And so I was nervous because I really wasn't sure how she would receive me, one, photographing her whole house. Even though it is totally legal, it's still very awkward to do it, especially since I was photographing the address pairs, really without permission from the homeowners. I thought she was going to approach me and potentially be upset and say, you can't use this photo of my home. But it was quite the opposite. And I also didn't really know for sure if she would even understand the project, because now, it's been out for some years. When people see it, they immediately understand it because they have the visual, they have the project. But imagine explaining this weird project that doesn't exist to someone as you're photographing their house to be part of it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a mess. But it wasn't. And her name is Jennifer. We still keep in touch. And she was totally receptive and really open and warm to the idea and thought it was intriguing. And so she was the first person outside of my immediate social network that I was explaining the project to. So I was also nervous about how do I even explain this? And so I was like fumbling and trying to explain it, but she understood it immediately. So she was kind of like one of my first confirmations that, oh, okay, you don't have to uh, totally have experienced both neighborhoods that I was featuring in the project to understand what I'm trying to do. And so that was really affirming. But yes, I definitely was nervous. I was like, oh gosh, I just got started on this. And then when we started talking, that's when it made the unexpected turn of me inviting her to visit Englewood. And I was totally surprised that that came out of my mouth because, as I said, it was supposed to be a photography project only, and not even portraits of people. I did not want to interact with people. I was like, I'm a photographer. I want to stay, behind the camera. I don't want to be talking to people that much. But our interaction made the project take a beautiful turn.
There's a short film, there's a guide for schools to teach this as like part of curriculum. There's a lot sort of surrounding it. What do you want people to take away from a project like this?
Well, all of those expansions of the project was really intentional. And so the curriculum was the most immediate thing that I wanted to expand the project into, because I started to have those observations, knowing the difference in the neighborhoods at a very early age, and really at an age that most Chicagoans, especially Black Chicagoans who had to travel outside of their neighborhoods as early as 13, like me, 13 years old, you start to have these observations, but then you go to school and you don't really learn about these very, these very overt things that you're noticing. And so I knew that I wanted to create a curriculum for the project specifically targeted to the high school age group, because that's the age that, you're generally starting to have your own independence, you're traveling. Even if it's not to different neighborhoods, you're still going to neighborhoods outside of maybe, the block that you grew up on. And so I really wanted it to be for that age group. And more than that, I wanted it to be for public school educators, because I have so many friends who are amazing public school educators. And I know the plight that they have every year, not being able to, get the budgets that they deserve. And they oftentimes have to buy resources for their classrooms with their own money if they're a teacher that cares. And so I wanted to create a curriculum that would be free for public school educators, so it could be a resource if they wanted to use it and include the project in their own curriculum that they have. And so it was really important for me to get it to educators who would then in turn get it to the specific demographic that I wanted to have learn about these large systemic issues, but in a more personal, meaningful way, by thinking about your own neighborhood first and your own observations about how you feel about your neighborhood first. So that was really important to me. And then also the film, the folded map film, which is the animated 30-minute film about the project, but more importantly, the origin of the project. I created that in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. And so it was really important for me to create another accessible way for people to engage with the project, since all of the presentations that I was doing obviously got canceled because of the pandemic. And I wanted people to be able to learn about all of the issues that are raised in the project, while, still being at home in the pandemic and everything. Education was transitioning to virtual. So it was really important for me to make it accessible in that way, which is why I did the film. And then the folded map action kit, it was important for me to create that because so many people had contacted me in 2018, 2019 when the project debuted as an art exhibit at Loyola University Museum of Art, wanting to find their map twins. And they just thought it was such a cool idea, and it really made them curious about what was on the other side of the city on their same street. And I knew, I was like, well, I'm not going to be doing map twins my whole life. So I need to create a way for them to do it by themselves. And since the pandemic had started, I was like, it needs to be something they could do on their own without people. And so that is what the idea and the premise behind the action kit, which includes errands that I invite people to run in a neighborhood that's racially and economically different than their own. So simple errands that completely related to what we were doing in the pandemic, which is, going to buy fruit or organic apple.
Yeah.
Go to an ATM and take out $20, or just go find one. Go visit a local library. It was errands that could speak to how differently neighborhoods are treated by businesses and, city resources. So all of those expansions were really intentional and represented kind of why I wanted to do those expansions, because it was important for me to continue engagement around this nuanced, large issue that continues to impact us in so many personal ways that sometimes we forget, because unfortunately we've normalized it.
I'm going to ask you a question that you asked the Map Twins. So you were raised in Englewood. You live in Englewood now. How do you feel about your neighborhood?
Oh, well, it's changed a lot from when I was younger. My opinion and my feelings about it. Since I have had the opportunity, being a lifelong Chicagoan, to live in other neighborhoods, there are very clear assets that I hate my neighborhood doesn't have. Things that I do enjoy in other neighborhoods, that make me love other neighborhoods, or contribute to the reasons that I love other neighborhoods and enjoy other neighborhoods as well. The abundance of cafes, the abundance of, mom and pop shops, whether it's boutiques or, a bakery that's been there for decades, things that represent a strong, thriving business corridor. That's something that I hate my neighborhood doesn't have. However, I love the sense of community, and I think that is something that was demonstrated through all of the interview of the Map Twins, all of the North Side residents who visited Englewood, spoke to how nice everyone is in the neighborhood and how it's such a strong sense of community that it just feels like everybody knows each other, people speak to each other. And that is something that I grew up with. And so it's one of the most beautiful things about this neighborhood that it has a real strong value that people that doesn't get translated in the media. It doesn't get translated in in most um, conversations about the neighborhood, because the focus is always on the deficits, and no one other than Englewood residents who are involved in this cultural work speak to the assets, the cultural assets that are here that are just as important as, you know, a school or the value of your home. You don't really get to understand the importance of a strong sense of community until you experience it. And even though a lot of the North Side residents had everything else they wanted in their neighborhood, a few of them were like, we don't have this strong sense of community of like looking out for each other, and that's something that I didn't realize was something that we lacked until I experienced it here in Englewood. And so that is what I love about my neighborhood. And I think it's a byproduct of, returning to a neighborhood that you grew up in as an adult. You get the added benefit of seeing this neighborhood and experiencing it in a way that you didn't get to when you were a child. And so you notice things that from an adult perspective. And so it's just lovely to have it be normal for me to run into people that I know from my childhood. My son used to get his hair cut by my grammar school best friend, who I literally grew up with on the same block. My daughter and son interned at my friend's store in Englewood. So, it's just such a strong sense of community, and I absolutely love that. However, I clearly and obviously hate how it's been treated and how my neighborhood has been treated and disinvested in, which is the motivation behind all of the projects that I do. But I absolutely love my neighborhood. It just feels like home. Don't you know, like when you have been traveling, whether it's, abroad or nationally,
Yeah.
when you touch down home, wherever that is for you, that sense of relief, like, oh, that's literally how I feel soon as I, pull up in Englewood. Like, oh my gosh, I'm home. I get to, let my hair down. I get to relax. I get to, you know, have people not recognize me for my project, and I love it. Is amazing. So I really do. I really do love my neighborhood, which is why I'm still here.
I love that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. That feeling of coming home, and how it's a relief. Like when you've been away, even if you've been away all day, you're coming back. Even if it hasn't been like that long of a time, or you haven't been that far. I'm curious, like, so a lot of the things, and this is very prevalent in Chicago and in other cities as well, but particularly in Chicago, just the segregation. It's a diverse city, but it's extremely segregated. The disinvestment that has happened in Black communities specifically. When I think, when people who live in Chicago and care about this and are thinking about it, I think it can also feel like really big, like, oh, this problem is systemic, and what can I do? How do you how do you think about that, or do you have an answer for that question?
Yeah. When we talk about systemic racism, it's literally the fact that it was built into all of the systems. And I want my projects to help remind people that systems were created by people who held racist beliefs. And how you think, how you feel, and what you value gets carried with you if you work in government, if you are a doctor, if you are an educator, if you are a person who is a part of these systems. And so even though it feels overwhelming and systemic, it can be disrupted by having a deeper understanding of this history, by having a more empathetic point of view rooted in actual historical facts, because how you feel and what you value gets translated in how you vote.
Yeah.
And that is a part that we oftentimes forget, and we just focus on voting and policy. But there's education that has to happen to help people vote a specific way, advocate for anything in their neighborhood or their city, or just even become aware of it. Is a political act. And it's clear that voting and policy and laws alone haven't gotten us to where we want to be. And I firmly believe it's because we have not uplifted the personal aspect of it, which is you have to have public awareness around these issues in a way that connects to people's present day lives so they can have a more informed understanding about the city, the country that they live in, because that will get translated into what news you pay attention to and how you vote. And so we tend to bypass the essential part of education and public awareness. And I believe that if you are educating yourself or becoming aware of these issues, that will begin the necessary transformation that can evolve into policy and pressure to advocate for more equitable policies in general. And you can't have that if you don't know the history, if you don't know how it's impacted you. And a lot of times people tend to think that, segregation, even with everything we learn, people tend to think, oh, it has only impacted Black and brown neighborhoods. And through my projects, I want people, especially white Chicagoans, to see, no, it's impacted you too, just in very different ways. And it's important for all of us to become aware that it's impacted all of our lives. White Chicagoans operate in a fear that they've been made to believe is justified and warranted. That's an impact and a byproduct of segregation. White Chicagoans and other transplants to Chicago have been told, don't go to the south side and west side of Chicago. And if you take that advice, then that has impacted you. That is a byproduct of segregation. Now you're not exposed to, majority of the city because of this advice that's rooted in segregation and racism. So we're all impacted by it. And, it's a disservice to all of us. And so, you know, I think that the human element of all of these issues is, for me as the artist and activist, it's easy for me to create work to remind people of the human element and to uplift how important that part is in making change. Because you can't do anything without organizing people's hearts and minds. That's just it, and that's something that is true no matter what sector you operate in journalism. You have to make it relevant to the viewer, the audience. uh, in business, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's the personal in everything. Even in medical, it doesn't matter what a doctor says. If you don't like them, you probably not going to listen to what they say. So it's a human element, it's a personal element that is so important that we have been taught to minimize. And that is just not how change happens. And so I want my work to help people feel good about you learning and you disrupting it in your own life. That's enough, because that is transformative. Everything isn't about just the voting. Momentum happens before we have elections, and all of the experiences that you collect and information you learn about in between whatever election period will inform how you vote. And so I want to remind people of that, that, you will be forever changed when you experience another neighborhood. And you will carry that with you when you decide what you want to watch on TV, when you decide, it unconsciously uh, helps direct a lot of things that you might do in your own personal time. You might consider a different restaurant now. You might watch a different TV show. You might follow a different person on Instagram or social media. All of those things are critical and necessary. And I want people to feel good about that part, and to not feel so hopeless just with the political landscape.
Yeah. Let's segue into Unblocked Englewood.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Talk to me about that project.
Unblocked Englewood. Oh, that's just my latest baby. Um, Unblocked Englewood is pretty much, I personally feel, the culmination of all of my projects. Folded Map helped visualize segregation to show the difference and how it impacts all of us personally. My Belonging project, that gave a voice to Black teenagers, how they feel about their city, and being racially profiled, which was important to me because I was a teenager when I started to understand my city. And then also, that's the age group that's going to be voting soon,
Yeah.
So how they feel is going to forever be important. And we forget that. And so my Belonging project focused on taking portraits of them and getting their audio stories. Uh, and then my Inequity for Sale project was bringing attention to this predatory, discriminatory housing practice that affected my neighborhood and all of the west side of Chicago. And it helped people understand how and why these neighborhoods look the way that it does, because a lot of people assume, oh, because poor people live there and it's gun violence, that's why it looks like that. No, that's actually not. And it's not your fault that you don't know. So my Inequity for Sale project created landmarkers for homes Just 13 of the over 600 homes in Greater Englewood that were essentially legally stolen from aspiring homeowners who thought they owned their home. And then my Unblocked Englewood project is taking all of that history and focusing on helping one block in Greater Englewood overcome everything that my other projects have exposed people to by way of helping these homeowners who are all senior citizens repair their homes and the story behind the process of doing that. And it's a project that's been going on for 3 years now. And we've repaired, provided critical repairs to 18 of the 22 homes on that block. We have helped the residents purchase 4 of the city-owned vacant lots that they were taking care of anyway, but they now own. We acquired 4 more privately owned vacant lots for the residents to develop as they want, and we're helping them think about how they want to develop it. We're in the process of closing on an abandoned home on that block that was in the Cook County Land Bank portfolio, and we're putting public art on the block, murals, sculptures, and to see that this entire block, who I call my block of adopted grandparents, to see them feel so much relief for being able to stay in a home that they have struggled to maintain, and to honor the people who have remained homeowners in this neighborhood throughout all of the disinvestment. They are the heartbeat and the engine of this neighborhood, because if they were to give up and have left, our home ownership rate in this neighborhood would be even lower.
Yeah.
And so this project honors their resilience in a way that really makes me proud. And I'm just looking forward to continuing to help them get all of the necessary repairs and renovations that they want to return the equity that was stolen from them because of the disinvestment and discriminatory housing practice that brought down the value of the entire neighborhood. I'm happy to be able to return that stolen equity to them. And so Unblocked Englewood is a beast of a project that was initially funded by me diverting public art dollars to home repairs. Because as an artist who has done projects to raise awareness about, our ugly history, I wanted to do a project to demonstrate how we can solve this harmful history, and to also not only give residents on this particular block hope, but everyone else to know that you don't have to wait to policies happen to help. There are creative ways to make change, and I wanted to create a project that demonstrates that these are the things we can do until the laws that we think should happen are in place. And so Unblocked Englewood is um, just my, well, you can't say you have a favorite child and you can't say you have a favorite project either, but but I love it because it really is the culminating project. Like, the other projects showed the issue, the other projects explain how we got here, and this project is, to me, showing how we can help each other to move forward. And so it's the perfect project to have be my magnum opus.
Love that. So, this is a nice segue into the MacArthur Foundation or Fellowship, that award. Tell me about, I mean, I can't even imagine what it must be like to get a phone call like that.
Oh
So
my God.
tell me about that day.
Wow. So, one, obviously, I was aware of the existence of the MacArthur
Yeah.
Genius Fellowship because so many of the people who are motivations to me, are inspirations to me, happen to be MacArthur Genius Fellows. And I think I realized this like 3-4 years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, that's all of them have that in common. Carrie Mae Weems, who's a photographer, Daoud Bey, who's a photographer, my big sister in art, Amanda Williams, who shows segregation in these really creative ways in the built environment. Rick Lowe, who created Project Row House in Texas. I've been a fan of that project for years. And I was like, oh my, Nicole Hannah Jones, like, just how she talks about history. And then one day I was like, oh my gosh, all of them are MacArthur Genius Fellows. And so that's how I became aware of the fellowship. And so, I never considered I could be on the radar for it until I was doing Unblocked Englewood, because that project is literally a version of Rick Lowe's Project Row House, because I actually spoke to Rick Lowe about my idea of wanting to do this project, and he encouraged me. He said, just do it. Start with one thing and just it will build. And so Project Row House was really my inspiration for Unblocked Englewood. And so I thought, I was like, oh, maybe they might become aware of this project. And then that was it. That's the furthest I thought, because as big of a project Unblocked Englewood is, I don't have time to think about whatever other, awards could be looking at the project, because helping to transform an entire block with a whole block of older Black people, that takes up all your time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even thinking about it. And so when I got the call, they announce it to you, or they call you to notify you only a month before they do the national, really international announcement. And so they called me, they sent me an email first to say they wanted to schedule a call with me about a new project that they're working on, and they wanted me to be involved. So I was like, oh, MacArthur Foundation wants to do a project? Perfect. This is wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
They have such a great platform. So I really was scheduling this call with them thinking it was going to be a project they were telling me about. So we scheduled the phone call. I accept the call while I'm en route to a meeting. So I'm driving. And so when we got on the call and they recognized that I was using Bluetooth in my phone in my car, and they kept asking if I was driving, and I was like, yeah. And they were so concerned about me driving and, taking this meeting. I was like, I'm in traffic. It's totally fine. Like, it was to the point that I was like, okay, why are they so tripping? Like, I'm fine. It's just, we're not FaceTiming. I'm fine. And so they asked like 4 times. And I said, listen, this is no different to me than listening to music, listening to a podcast. I'm fine. I'm in traffic. Okay. I can have this phone call. All right. We're talking about a project. It's okay. And then they tell me, well, we really wanted to let you know that you were selected to be the 2025 plus. I said, I'm pulling over. I said, oh my God. I said, you're lying. And they said, no, in fact, we are not lying.
Oh my goodness.
I said, okay, yeah, I need to get off. I need to pull over. So I was completely shocked. Like, was not on the phone with MacArthur Foundation, still wasn't even thinking. And so they were like, are you really shocked? Like, we thought that you were, we thought that you were going to figure it out. All of you all are so smart, and we just thought that you're going to put it together. And I was like, no, I'm busy. So I definitely was not thinking about that. And they were like, oh, wow, well, we're so relieved that you're genuinely surprised. And yeah, it was, oh my gosh. And so then after they tell you, you literally have like less than 4 weeks to do everything for the announcement, interview with all of the media outlets, take the photos, do the video for it. So the 4 weeks go by so fast, and then you can't tell people, and then so you're lying to people about your schedule, and you gotta. I was running late to stuff because stuff for the. It was just oh my gosh, yes. So by the time they announced it, you're relieved. You're like, oh gosh, thank God. I was like, sorry everybody. Now you see why my schedule was getting crazy, and sorry I was late to this, and I canceled that. And they're like, oh my God, this is why. So yeah, I'm still processing it actually. And it's a lot of personal preparation you have to do to receive that kind of award over 5 years. So, I'm in the process of doing that and just really grasping how transformative this will be for my imagination,
Yeah.
the projects that I want to do that, I didn't have the resources to do. I'm like, oh, I can just do it on my own now. And then, or, my children who are going to be continuing their education, being able to support them in a way that, they don't have to take out the school loans,
Yeah.
and then also me not having to say yes to as many paid presentations to support myself, allowing myself more breathing room. It's just trying to grasp the benefit of what is to come as a result of being able to have those things taken care of is just mind-boggling.
Well, huge congratulations. It's definitely
Thank you.
deserved. I
Thank you so
mean,
much.
the work the work that you've done, and then the work that you've done already, the work that you have in progress with Unblocked Englewood, and then as you said, like who knows like what this can unlock for you
Mhm.
creatively, but also then for everybody else, for for Chicago, for the
Oh,
country, for the
thank
world,
you.
to bear
Thank you.
witness to that. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier about, that sense of relief, and just that, and to me also like that cozy feeling of having been
Mhm.
away and then, hitting the ground in Chicago or coming back to your neighborhood. Um, when when you get back home, what are the things that you want to do? Or if people are coming to see you, what do you recommend that they go do? What are your things? What
Oh
are
my
your
gosh. Well, first and foremost, when it comes to Chicago, the tried and true summertime or springtime shy, um, and fall shy, is a vibe. So seasonally, I would say summertime, being outdoor as much as possible. Get yourself to the lake somehow, some way, whether it's 31st Street Beach, whether it's 57th Street Beach, whether it's a beach on the north side. Just go. That's a beautiful way to get to know Chicago, I think. Go
Mhm.
to all our beaches. um, a lot of people who are not from Chicago, which is why learning geography is very important. They have no idea that we have like 18 miles of lakefront, which is crazy to me, but hey, that's the school system. They don't teach people geography the way that they should. So, uh that is such a beautiful asset that I really think distinguishes us as a city from any other city in the country. A little jealous of the coastal cities, but we are a major city with the largest body of water inside of this country. We're right next to it.
Mhm.
And so you do yourself an injustice if you don't experience it somehow, some way, you know, either personally, going to sit by the lake or, you know, by visiting a lakefront restaurant or a lakefront bar. I think you truly get a sense of this city if you do that. So I say that first and foremost. Um, and then also, you just got to go to restaurants here. I don't care which restaurant. I don't care. I'm not about to get into listing the top five because we have too many. We are a restaurant eating city
Mhm.
and we have great food. Like, I think we're one of the cities that have the most, uh, what's that national food? I think it's the Beard.
Oh yeah, James Beard Awards. Yeah.
Yes, the James Beard Award restaurants. I think we have like the most of them in this city, and you could kind of tell, even if you don't know anything about the James Beard Award, you know that it's some good food here, and it's a variety. Um, and then also, even though I had to get a little older to appreciate the culture and the vibe of it, because it's just I'm a creative. I didn't like lounges at first, but oh my gosh, there's such a vibe. You really get to know different neighborhoods if you go visit a lounge in a neighborhood, because it feels like a little club. Like, oh my god, can I go there? Do I need a membership? But it's once you just accept the fact that yeah, you could walk in, it's public. Then you get why it's a whole vibe. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like a whole extended little family. People just welcome you in. You can have a little cheap drink, a strong drink, and you can listen to some music and you can go home. So I would say those are the and then the fourth one, festivals, you know. But festivals isn't everybody's thing. I love a festival. I love complaining about getting tired of festivals. I love, you know, going to a festival. I love the whole process of being irritated of, you know, traffic about festivals. But I love a festival, you know. So I would say those are the things that, you know, we do good, we do well. And then also get you a good friend on the south side of Chicago and go sit on their porch with them. Because that right there is truly quintessential Chicago, you know, hanging on your porch, having a drink on your porch in the summertime, saying hey to your neighbors, you know, watching people walk by, you know, that's listening to music on your porch. It's a vibe. And I think that is something that is definitely quintessential Chicago. Um, you know, cuz we love our historic homes and our porches here, and we have a neighborhood vibe. Like the whole city has a neighborhood vibe. So, yeah, those would be the things I say you that I love, that I often do. All of those things, and I welcome other people to do it.
Love it. Tonika, this was awesome.
Oh, thank you. You are awesome.
Thank you so much for coming,
No
and
problem.
really appreciate all your time.
I
Um,
appreciate all of your beautiful questions.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Notes from Chicago. This podcast is edited and produced by Tanisha Blakely. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Notes from Chicago on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.